I need to tell you how I heard this story. It didn't come from a podcast or a YouTube video. It came from an old woman named Margaret. She was a neighbor of someone I met at a gas station. Margaret was quiet, kept to herself, loved her garden, and never told a lie. He said one evening during the fall, he was helping Margaret bring in firewood, and she just started talking. She said, I have a friend named Charlie, a retired wildlife surveyor. He was a tough old bird, didn't drink, didn't chase story. He just loved the woods. Margaret said Charlie got sick. It's a lung thing. Charlie was a heavy smoker. Margaret would visit him every day at the hospital, and one afternoon, out of nowhere, Charlie grabbed her wrist, weak grip, but serious. He said, I want to tell you what happened up on the Hamma Hamma River. And then Charlie looked at the ceiling, took a long, rattling breath, and then he told her everything. 3 weeks later, he passed away. The man said Margaret sat with him at the end. She said his last words weren't about family or God or regrets. He just looked at the window, at the rain, and then he was gone. So this isn't a legend. And this isn't just a campfire story. This is Charlie's story, and he took it to his grave, except for one afternoon in a hospital room when he finally decided someone should know the truth. And here's what he told Margaret and what Margaret told him. Now, I'll just paraphrase of what this guy told me as far as I can remember. Charlie was a wildlife surveyor. He worked for the Forest Service. He wasn't a hunter. Wasn't a Bigfoot believer as well. He was just a tired guy with a clipboard who liked being alone in the woods. But decades ago, the woods stopped being friendly. That day, the weather was weird. It wasn't a storm. It was just quiet. A thick gray sock of fog sat over the Olympic Peninsula. By 4:30 in the afternoon, it felt like midnight. Charlie remembers turning off his truck engine just to listen, and that's when he noticed something strange. Total silence. No birds, no squirrels, not even a drip from the trees. He told me that the location was a Bigfoot hotspot. He said if you look at a map of Washington, find the Hamma Hamma River, follow it east until the valley narrows into a V shape. And there's an old logging spur. And there's a gate that is usually locked, but there's a pullout. That's when Charlie parked. He said that on that day he was filling out his water quality sheet. He was bored. His pen was dying. And he said to himself, just get the sample and leave. And that's when he smelled it. Charlie describes it like this. Imagine a wet dog. Multiply that smell by 10. Add a dead deer. at a garbage can that's been in the hot sun for a week, but also musk, like a billy goat and a wet leather jacket mixed together. The wind was barely moving, but the smell came in waves, thick enough to taste. Charlie's eyes started to water. So Charlie stood up from the creek bank. He had a little clip on headlamp, but he turned it off. He said, "In those woods, you want your full night vision." He called out, and he admits it was stupid. He said, "Hello, Park Service. Anyone camping?" Nothing. Then he heard the knock. Not a woodpecker, not a branch falling. It was rhythmic, like someone hitting a hollow cedar log with a baseball bat. Thump, thump, thump. It came from about 200 yards up the slope, then another knock off to the left. Thump, thump, thump. He said they were communicating or warning him. Charlie's heart didn't race at first, it just stopped. Then it kicked so hard he felt it in his ears. He grabbed his truck's tailgate for balance, and that's when he saw it. It was standing between two trees, maybe 80 feet away. It wasn't hiding, it was just standing there, still as a statue. Now, here's the description, as far as I can remember, of what that man told me. He said it was taller than the underbrush. This thing is about 7.5 feet, easy, maybe 8. But it wasn't lanky, it was dense, like a professional wrestler who also eats trees for breakfast. It had dark, rusty brown fur, almost maroon in the low light, but the shoulders and the top of the head were peppered with gray like an old silverback gorilla. And I remember this is the part that keeps Charlie awake at night. It had no snout like a bear. It had a flat face, humanish but wrong. The forehead sloped back, the brow ridge was massive, and the eyes were dark, not shiny, red, or glowing, just black. And they followed Charlie. He swears the head turned 3 inches to track him. No neck movement, just the eyes. He said the hands hung below its knees. Fingers were thick like sausages, but long. When it shifted its weight, Charlie saw the nails, not claws, nails, thick, yellowed, chipped. It took one step, not fast, not aggressive, just deliberate. It put a foot down on a log, and Charlie heard the wood splinter from 80 feet away. The ground didn't shake in a movie way. It was more like a low bass note you feel in your ribs. The creature then raised its right arm, like it was pointing at Charlie or telling him to stop. And then it exhaled. Not a roar, not a scream, a huff, a deep, chesty woof of air, like a horse blowing out after a run. Charlie saw its breath fog the cold air. That's how close it was. Then Charlie's brain finally caught up. It told him to move. He didn't run. You don't run from something that big. He backed away, slid sideways to his truck door, but never turned his back. He fumbled for the keys, dropped them in the mud, picked them up, got inside. He locked the doors, started the engine, turned on the high beams, and the creature was gone. Just vanished. No crash or branches, no footsteps. The fog drifted through the gap between the trees like nothing had ever been there. Charlie said he drove 20 miles to the ranger station in Hoodsport. His hands were shaking so bad he couldn't sign the visitor log. The next morning, he went back with two other rangers. They found one thing: a footprint, not in the mud, in duff. That thick mat of pine needles and moss. Something heavy had pressed it down flat. The print was 17 inches long. It had 5 toes. And here's the creepy part: a mid-tarsal break. That means the arch was in the wrong spot for a human. A human heel lifts and leaves a smooth point. This one had a ridge in the middle, like a hinge. They poured plaster, and the cast is still in the district office, locked in a file cabinet, and no one talks about it. Margaret said Charlie used to laugh at Bigfoot shows. He still thinks at the time that 99% of the stories are hoax or misidentified bears. But he can't forget that smell, that quiet, the way the woods just held its breath. Right after, Charlie doesn't go to the Hamma Hamma after 3 p.m. anymore. Not ever. And when the rain goes silent, he stays inside. Because something out there knows how to knock, and it doesn't want company. If you love the story, just click the like button. And if you want to support the channel, hit subscribe. Hit the comment section if you want to share something or maybe comment on this story. Until then, stay safe in the woods.